Right, everyone, welcome to this video. This video I'm basically going to cover the 10 fastest ways to make more revenue in your business or more money in your business. This is going to be specifically for local service businesses. So this is going to be not for e-commerce stores, and some of these may apply or will apply to service businesses in general, but this is really going to be for local, so contractors, restaurants, hair salons, dentists, clinics, whatever that you're offering your services locally, because we're going to be talking about Google My Business and that type of stuff too. So as you can see here, these are the top 10 ways that I would say are the fastest. So basically you could do all these tonight if you want. Some of these are going to be a little bit more complex. You have more technical knowledge. Some of these are just going to be, you could do right after this video, you could start applying these. Now, what we're going to talk about, I'm going to do a quick overview, then we're going to go into them in depth. I also want to keep this video short. So website speed, you're going to have your website speed, so making your website faster. There's ways to do it really easily, and that's going to increase your conversion rate, so increase the likelihood that if someone notices your website is on your website, that they're actually going to end up calling you. So if your conversion is 3%, maybe you could get it to 4%, 5% with these website speed optimizations. Front-end SEO, this is going to be your title tags, meta descriptions, URLs. If you don't have them set up correctly, I've seen it with the clients we worked with in the past that just setting these things up correctly, the next day or the next week, there was a change in terms of Google's rankings of our business, especially for local service businesses. I believe this is true, more true, because it's not as competitive as if you were to be, a blog on SEO to try to compete on SEO. Like the results are more drastic, especially if you're putting those local keywords in there. So whenever somebody's searching, let's say haircut in New York, they're going to be more likely to find you because now you're actually showing up for these keywords because you've implemented these strategies. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Website design, so optimizing your call to action. So maybe I could give you an example here. So, having buttons that look like this that are a lot more engaging compared to, having buttons that are like this, that you can't really notice. Obviously, in terms of designs, it depends on the eye that you have and what you prefer. But in terms of conversions, actually getting people to click the buttons, these are a lot worse converting than these types of buttons. So maybe you don't like the aesthetics, maybe you want to play around with these things, but in general, having a shadow, having an icon, having a number instead of just call us, because some people have call us or get a quote or something like that, and it leads to a phone number. Well, if you're on desktop, most of the time, you're going to take out your phone to call. And so if you're clicking this button, you're going to get this, like the little pop-up that is going to appear. So you want to have the number there so people can actually type it up. So we're going to talk about that too. In terms of website structure, the overall structure improvements you can make. So basically, again, I'm going to give you an example, having, your forms at the top. So that's increasing your conversion rate again, because if your form is hidden in your contact us page, well, the people that never end up going there, they're never going to see it. And so now it's loading slow because of this video. So funny enough, this website's slow loading. But anyways, the quote, having your forms here, structuring certain information at the top, so having your certifications, having your testimonials, those are going to lead you to an increase in conversion rate as well. So all these things that you could do that we're going to talk about quickly about how to improve there. Basically the top tricks I'm going to give in this video. And then in terms of sales optimizations, you have some appointment reminder flows. So that's basically if your show up rate is under something like 70%, maybe I could give you guys just to show you a little bit here. So if you go look at this is something I took from Alex Hormozi, so I can't take any credit for this. But anyways, show up rate, if you show up rate to your appointments, if your service business, people aren't showing up to their physical appointments or they're not showing up to their calls, if it's under 70%, you probably have an issue regarding that. And so if there's little optimizations you could do, and one of them that's the easiest is setting up appointment reminders. So either by text, which text tends to convert better, or by email. And so those are going to be the top two ways you could, basically the only two ways you could call them too, but logistically that might be difficult. Now in terms of speed, having it set up quickly, you could use a software. There's a bunch of software to do this. You could set it up tonight, have a 3-sequence email flow, basically sending them an email 1 hour before, 3 hours before, a day before their appointment, and that's going to increase your show up rate by 10%. So now you got 10% more people showing up to their appointments. You just got yourself 10% more revenue in your business. So stupidity sometimes like that could really have an impact, and they could be quick. Missed call text back. So this is going to be if you're getting calls outside of your business hours, or you're getting calls maybe during lunch or holidays, you can have missed call and text back messaging, so that it keeps people engaged a lot more, increase the likelihood that lead's going to stay a lead, and it's going to be more prone to dealing with you. Because obviously with a lead, you want to answer them back as quickly as possible, but sometimes that's just not reasonable or not feasible. So if they call you, let's say at 6 o'clock, you close at 5, you send them back this missed call text back. You can set up with AI as well, but this is a little bit more advanced. You could basically, if you're doing appointment reminder flows, usually the same software, you could set these up, set it up with your number connected. You can probably do this in a day. And what that's going to do is that basically going to send that text. And now you're going to have an increased likelihood that tomorrow when you end up calling that lead, they're actually going to pick up. They're actually going to answer because you're already engaged with them in some sense. You have some other automations you could do. You could ask some old clients for referrals. So if you're looking for leads right now, if you're looking for more money, more revenue right now, if you've never done this, you basically ask every single one of your old clients for referrals. And for sure, you're going to get, well, for sure, a higher likelihood you're going to get at least one, from that. Then we got some Google My Business, asking old and new clients for reviews and some little optimizations there. So that's going to be the gist of the video now. I just want to give you guys a quick preview because obviously this video is 10 fastest ways, so I want to keep this thing pretty speedy. So I'm going to get into this all, but I just want to give an overview before I get into the in-depth of these things, just to make sense of all these strategies, because it can get confusing. So first thing I want to do is I want to show you, which might be even more confusing, but all of this here. So this is basically every single way you could increase sales, leads, conversions in your business, or at least 95% plus of the ways. So if you can imagine your business like this, there's ways people notice your business. So a lead might notice your business. These are all the ways. So review sites, your search engine results, social media, your maps, your directories, and so on and so forth. So you want to basically increase the likelihood that people notice your business. And the way we're going to talk about today is going to be through your search engine results. So optimizing your SEO, especially your front-end SEO. There's other parts of SEO, but for the fastest, this is what it's going to be. Then in terms of increasing when a lead inform themselves, because when a lead sees your business, they either contact you directly or they need to inform themselves. So they're going to want to learn about your business, and what they're going to do is that they're going to check out maybe your website, your content, your online reputation, and that's how they're going to judge your business. And here basically this is going to be your conversion rate metric. So now you have how many visitors you have to your site. So maybe actually I should show you here with this projections calculator. This is just pretend numbers, just to give you an idea, but imagine you have 500 visitors to your website per month. Your conversion rate currently is 3%. So 3% of these are converting. So meaning these 500, it's basically, you get 500 people at this level of the funnel. These 500 go here and they check out your website. From these 500, you've got 3% of them that end up contacting you. So what is that? That's, I'm going to do some quick math. It's going to be 150. So you got anyways, 15. Okay, so you got people that are going to notice your business here, then they're going to end up contacting you. So that percentage at 3% is going to be that. Now you could improve that percentage by improving your website's design, your website structure, your website speed, improving your online reputation, so getting better reviews, more reviews. That's going to be a way to increase this number here, so increase your conversion rate. Then in terms of your close rate, that's going to be basically this section here. So the lead notices your business, the lead informs themselves about your business, so they're converted. Now they're going to contact you. Now that they contact you, what is the likelihood that they end up purchasing something from you? So basically your close rate is going to be, in this case, 30% for this specific business, this fictitious business. So there's ways to improve this. This, like I was saying, increasing your show up rate, because maybe the person did end up contacting you, but they didn't follow up on the contacts, and so they aren't showing up to the final meeting. You could increase your close rate with the missed call text backs and so on and so forth. So we'll talk about that, and then you got some other stuff here. So this is just the gist of it, just the overall view, just so it makes more sense on why these things might have an effect and how could they have that big of an effect into a business. So let's get back into it here. So 10 fastest ways to make more revenue. Now we're going to be talking about website speed. So how much more revenue can you actually make by improving your website? That's going to depend on where you're standing. In terms of conversions, there's a trend. It's basically, I'm going to give you guys a graph just to make this point a little clearer. So if I go here and I go to website speed, this is just a sample metric. It doesn't mean it's going to be the same case for your industry, but if you can imagine here, a website that's loading between 0 and 1 second is having, in this case, a 31% conversion rate, and you see a massive drop already from having a 1 to 2 second loading website, and then another massive drop from a 2 to 3 second loading website. So if you could imagine that your website is in this range, and hopefully not in this range, because it's going to be obviously more worse. If your website is in this range, there's probably potential for you to get, in this case, a third more conversions just by improving your website speed. That's why I put it at the top, because if you haven't done these in the past, then you're probably missing out on a third of the leads that you could get just by changing the speed of your website. It sounds stupid, it sounds crazy, but the fact is that Google treats your website better. So there's two aspects to this. Number one, when the person gets on your website, you have to assume that maybe on a fast computer, your website's loading in 0 seconds and 1 second. What's the difference? Well, some people have slow computers. That's number one. Some people are impatient, so they're just clicking. They might not get a response right now. They're going to click on the next one. So some people are impatient in that sense. So all these metrics taken into account makes it that the conversion rate is going to be strongly affected by your website speed. This is the case for e-commerce. This is the case for digital products. This is the case for any type of online business that has a website. And this is, I would say, very much the case for service businesses. Now there's that aspect, and then the other aspect too, which is kind of a bonus in a sense, is that the better retention rate you have on your website, so the less likely that people bounce, the more likely that people are taking actions on your website, the better you rank on Google, basically. Because Google's going to track all these metrics within your website. They're going to say, okay, this person stayed on 7 seconds compared to last week it was 5 seconds. Now this website's more in demand, and so we're going to rank it higher. So there's both these benefits here. So which is why I like having this whole graph here, just to to present it properly, is that you have your search engine results which are affected by the actual website speed, and so all these things are kind of correlated to one another. So now in terms of actually, I've sold you already on the idea, but in terms of actually what you want to do, it's going to be compressing the image sizes and reducing animations, fonts, etc. So if we think about a website, you have your images. So if I go here, let's say you have your images here, you have your images there. These are going to be the largest aspects of your website to load. Now, the issue with this is that you might need an image, or you might need even a video. We're talking about video improvements too, to just portray your business, and it actually makes your site look better. But the thing is, it might affect your conversion. So number one thing would be make the image smaller. So I have this as a background, but if you can imagine, you could split it in half. And if you have an issue with your website speed, which by the way, you could go Google Search Console, you could check out their tools for, Page Speed Insights by Google. And you could check out the speed of your website. In any case, you could cut it in half, maybe make it half of a section, especially on mobile. You can make it a little bit smaller. You could use this image and change it into WebP format. So if your images are usually in PNG, what you could do is you could go on, WebP Converter. So if I go here, WebP Converter, basically you go to these free apps, you take the image that you've had. So let's say in this case, I would save this image, take the image, put in the WebP Converter. In the WebP Converter, it would change the image from a PNG to a WebP, and WebP is a file type for images that Google recognizes as better, in the sense that it loads it faster, and I believe the file size is actually smaller, so it makes your image smaller. So you could do that, number one, and then what you could do is you could take it into, the tool's called Time PNG, but it doesn't matter if it's in WebP format. You could basically compress the image even further. You can compress the image even further. So you've got your WebP, so that makes it smaller. Then you take it from here and you go into here, and that makes it even smaller. Quality-wise is going to lose a little bit of quality, so if you really want to keep the quality, keep it. But that's going to make it so that your images load a lot faster in terms of Google. And usually just doing that is going to probably get you 10%, in terms of conversions, if that's an issue for your business. So you've got your main images, you got your secondary images, even you got your little logos that you might put. In this case, we have these here. All these could be, these are images. So these can be changed into WebP format and compressed into tiny PNG, especially these, that the quality doesn't really matter much. Maybe these in the background you might want to think about more. The other thing you could do is that, let's say in this case, for this website, we have this image here in the background and we want it to be blacked out here. So instead of blacking it out within this is a little bit more advanced, but in any case, instead of having blacked out in the website, so maybe having, this is a Wix website, so going on Wix and putting obscure on the left side or whatever, the actual image is blacked out on the side. The reason why is because the less information there is, the smaller the file size will be. This is an extra improvement you can make. So basically this just makes it so that the image is a lot less, it's lighter, basically said. So there's little ways to do that, but if you were to do this for all your images on your website, you could do this basically in 3 hours max. And don't need to be technical. You go on your WordPress, Wix, whatever, just change them, and already you got yourself a faster loading website. Now you got your reduction in animation and fonts, especially if your website's loading faster than a second. I would say check that out first. Google Page Speed Insights. Check your mobile and your desktop. What you could do is you could reduce animations, so remove them all basically. You could change the fonts. You could use WAF2 fonts. So if I'm going to type it here, WAF, there you go, WAF2 fonts. Okay. So these are basically the standard fonts that exist online. So if you go here, just to see. Anyways, the standard fonts used online, and these are going to be faster. They're going to be loading faster. Sometimes in your website, you could even see it that when you're reloading a website, you know, it's practice what I say, practice what I preach, but at the same time, I might not be doing it. In any case, okay, so it didn't happen now, but sometimes it's going to load first in a WAF2 format, like Helvetica and all these Times New Roman or whatever, and then it's going to go to yours. And so it takes a little bit longer to load. And so if you want a faster loading website, that's another way you could do it. So reducing animations, reducing fonts. Now, in terms of front-end SEO, that's going to be your title tags, meta descriptions, your URLs, how to change those, and then some content optimization. So first thing I would say is that if you're a local service business, you want to have your location basically everywhere. So the city you're in, basically everywhere, just so Google really recognizes that you're in that region. In terms of your title tags, meta descriptions, I have videos going over these more in depth. It's going to be a little bit hard to explain fast in this video, but basically you want to keep, actually maybe I could show you. Yeah, okay, so let me just show you fast. I have this checklist here just to show you here. It'll take 2 seconds to load. Okay, so let's do it like this. So first, you want to do keyword research for SEO. So you want to know which are your best keywords. If you want to take a, pause here and you want to take a screenshot of this, I can even take a screenshot of the formula here. So this is going to be a formula to know which ones are your best keywords. I have videos covering these more in depth, but in any case, if you know your keywords, title tags, you want it to be 50 to 60 characters long. You want your long tail keywords, so basically the longest keywords or the strongest keywords you have at the front of your title tag. And by the way, for people who don't know what a title tag is, this is the title tag. Okay, so this is what Google shows. This is your meta description, and this is your URL. So, well, in this case, this is the URL. So you could change all three of these things, and these three aspects are going to have certain effects on your rankings on Google. If you've never done these in the past, they're pretty much guaranteed to have an effect on your rankings. So, in any case, you have these three things you could do. There's multiple things you could do. So title tags, front load the keywords, exclude brand names. It's not useful unless your brand is really known or you're trying to get that recognition through your name. But most of the time, it's just a waste of keyword potential. You want to make your titles unique for each page in each language. So every single page you have, every single language you have, you want a different title tag, even a different meta description. Avoid dates. Conduct A/B testing. This is going to be for the future. In this case, it's just fastest results. For this video. So meta descriptions, a little bit the same principle, but write benefit driven and readable descriptions. Title tags could be more like a roofing company, Montreal, best roofing in town. It could be good like that. In terms of your meta description, you want it to be more benefit driven, readable. People are going to tend to read that. So that's going to increase two aspects of front end SEO, which I didn't mention before, but basically you have to rank higher on Google. So front end SEO, if you optimize these things, you could get higher on Google, but you could also increase the likelihood that someone sees your listing and clicks on it. So there's two aspects to it. So number one, if I could look at it here, if I'm looking for WAF2 fonts, and this is the first thing on Reddit, I'm going to read this to know if that's what I'm searching for. So obviously there's a higher likelihood I'm going to click it if it's what I'm looking for. And so if you write it in a way that entices people to click on it when they write a certain thing, that's going to increase the likelihood that you're going to get visitors to your site, basically. So you got two aspects of it, getting as high as you can on Google and then increase the likelihood that they actually end up clicking on that button. So that's going to be that for the meta descriptions. And then your URLs. I'm not going to go over these too much, but not that much of an impact. But in any case, you, instead of just having like a contact us, you want to say contact our roofing company. Instead of saying, our services, you want to say our roofing services. How much of an impact does that have? Not much, but it takes 2 seconds to change. So that's going to be that in terms of your front-end SEO. Now, if we go back here. And by the way, if you guys want more in-depth videos, I have some more, but I want to try to keep this video a little bit more concise. In terms of your content within your website, so you could change your content. Let's say in this case, this is going to be your H1. So H1, H2, H3 tags that you could set up on your website. I'm not going to cover these too much, but anyways, You could set up, you can have the best keywords you have here. This is going to be your main title. In your secondary title, you could have your second best keywords put here, and you could do that for all your pages. So that's going to tell Google, it's going to give basically Google more information about your business. It's going to give you, you're going to be able to give Google the information you want them to know. And so increase in likelihood you rank higher. So that's going to be your content types of optimizations. In terms of your website design, we covered it a little bit in the beginning, but basically getting your buttons to pop as much as possible, because if you compare this to that, again, depends on your preference of design, but in terms of conversions, these truly outbeat the rest. So having an icon, having a shadow, writing exactly what it is. If you're trying to get people to take an action, it's get a quote, not just contact us. You want people to click on it to get the action. The buttons here, you could have one that's floating, so that whenever somebody's scrolling, they always have the option to call you. Especially, this is going to be especially good for mobile. So if I go to a mobile version, you see here, so basically that's going to be right next to their thumb. So as soon as they feel like calling you, they're going to be able to call you. You basically want to reduce the friction as much as possible with these buttons. So easiest thing you could do is you go on your website, you see all the buttons you have, you change them all in terms of color, make them brighter. You add an icon. If you can add an icon, so be it. Change the text to something more clear and concise, like that's an action they could take. If it's a number, put the number. Put a shadow. Put maybe a border if you can't change the color too much. I would say even a drop shadow, so something like this, or you can play around with these things, but something like this, so that when they hover over it, it's more enticing to want to click. You kind of get into the button to click, and that's going to be pretty much the best things you could do, or the fastest things you could do for your website design. There's a website structure, overall structure improvements. So that's going to be structuring the way, again, I covered it a little bit before, but structuring the information up front. Basically, the way you could see a website structure is you have, when a client visits your website, they already have objections. They're trying to find a reason not to trust you, because or else they would have already called you. So if they're at that stage, it's because they don't trust you enough. And so they want to find the most information they can as fast as possible about how to decide what they think about you. And so if you have at the top of your website, you have not a lot of information. Maybe you see roofing, you have a quote. That doesn't give them information, unless the quote that gives them information. But contact us to get an estimate doesn't give them information. Here you might have roofing across Florida, okay, whatever. You have some, but what you want to do basically is have all the objections. Maybe you write them down. All the objections people have about your business. Maybe they think the price is too high. Maybe they think the competitors are better. Maybe they think you're not professional enough. Maybe they think, that they don't trust you. They just don't trust you. So you could basically handle all these objections that people might have, from most common to least common. And that's how you structure your website. And so in this case, I'm talking about the fastest ways. What you could do is you could get on your website and just switch these sections around. And so I would recommend, as a rule of thumb, is basically here and you're above the fold. So as soon as people land on it, you want to have the option for them to book a call, get a quote, whatever. You want the form right here, increases conversions. You want to have information about the reviews you have. So basically you want to show them that you're good at what you're doing, and that other people think you're good. If you have numbers, the amount of reviews you have, depending on how many you have, you want to write those. And then you want to add basically every single information they can at the top and front. And also, phone number. I would say this is an interesting section too to put, just that people constantly have all the information at hand. Now, in terms of what you want to put next, maybe you want to put some information about your business. This is going to be either if, so you could either put more information about your business, or you could directly put your reviews and certifications. So it's either one or the other. These are going to be interchangeable. But in any case, you want to basically go with, here's all about us. Here's why you could trust us. Here's what we do. Here's where we could trust us. And that's going to be basically the structure of it. Then you got your other stuff, put your services, your past work, and so on and so forth. You might want to put an FAQ. So let's say in this case, we have an FAQ here, which basically, it's taking a little time to load, basically is going to handle every single objection a client might have. And so if they have 10 objections, you're handling the 10 objections right here. And so that's how you're going to want to set up your FAQ for maximum conversions. So that's going to be the easiest ways to do that. Then after that, you got your sales optimization. This is going to be a little bit trickier to set up, especially if you haven't done these in the past, because there's going to be some email setups and so on and so forth. You could always do it with third parties, where basically you're paying monthly fee for their emails, and they're going to be able to do it through their emails and their reputation. So it might send, it might not send. So anyways, that's something else to think about. But in any case, You go to a software like Go High Level, you go to a software to MailChimp or all those types of softwares, you could set these up, and basically in your CRM, or even if you don't have a CRM, maybe you want to set it up manually. Whenever the client comes in, you put their email in that flow, sends them an email. I would recommend 24 hours before, 3 hours before, 1 hour before the appointment, and that should be good enough to increase your show up rate. So if we're looking at it towards if we're looking at more in terms of the math here, so if your close rate is 30%, maybe you could increase that close rate because you're getting more people to actually show up to their appointments. You're getting 10% more people to show up to their appointments, and the close rate would stay the same. So now you just got yourself 33% of people that basically closing 33% of people who were leads. So it's increasing that amount, and then that's going to be a direct bottom line improvement. So if you can imagine that's a 3 email sequence set up, in a day. At this point, you pay an expert to do it, and you just got yourself 10% more revenue just because you reminded people of their appointments. So something important there, and this applies to hair salons, restaurants, dentists, low ticket services and high ticket services. This applies to everyone. Now, for low ticket services, I would say, especially for hair salons, unless they're booking online, this is going to be very difficult to do, because if they're booking online, then you could probably set these things up very easily. But if they're not booking online, they're booking in person, they're giving you a call, then to take their information, and you want to send them the reminders, it kind of gets heavy in terms of actual work to do. And usually for hair salons, the show up rate is going to be 95%. Obviously, getting it as close to 100% as possible is going to give you more revenue, but just realistically, logistically, might be difficult. But any service that's over, I would say $1,000, is 100% worth it to do, because it doesn't cost you much in terms of the emails. It might cost you 20 cents per execution, So that's going to be that there. Missed call text back flow. Basically, again, I'm going to reiterate what I said before, but somebody calls, you don't get an answer. They don't get an answer within the next 5 minutes from somebody calling them back at your business. They receive a text. You can set this up with ChatGPT or with other AIs so that they actually get into a conversation with the person. And so they're going to be able to answer the questions. Say maybe if you want to go a step further now, I'm just making the quick version of it. But if you want to go a step further, you can have one for your weekends, one for your days at work, like different sequences, so that if somebody's not answering the phone during a work day, but the secretary, let's say, is supposed to answer the phone, but she's in the bathroom, then you can send a certain email, a certain text message that says, "Hey, just got your call. Sorry, I'm busy right now. I'll be back. I'll call you back in 10 minutes." That increases the likelihood that the lead's going to stay on the phone, stay on the line, stay next to their phone, and that when they receive a call, there's a lower likelihood they're actually going to cancel it. Because if you can imagine, the perspective of a client is that if I'm calling a business or I'm giving my information to a business, I'm not getting an answer back right away. I might start thinking about other stuff. I have this to do, I have that to do. Now I'm in my way, I'm in my car. Okay, somebody's calling me, I don't have time. Okay. Now, if you have this constant communication, which I'm going to add a little bonus to this, but the constant communication, you get to contact them right away. You get them to be engaged with you right away. The bonus tip I wanted to say is that basically when you send these text messages, especially if they never called you before, you can send them a text message with a, "Hey, this is John," or something, and that's going to record it within their phone that you are John from whatever. So on Apple phones, I believe that's what they do. So they record the name that you say that the other person says in text. And so you can send them a text. They send you a text. You send them a text, and then they're going to be recorded. On their phones, you're going to be recorded. So that's an interesting one there. In terms of asking your old clients for referrals, what you could do is you could basically get all their emails. If you're low on leads, you're low on revenue, get them on an email sequence. You sequence them all, send them a message saying, "Hey, we're looking for more referrals. If you're interested, you could do referral programs. You could incentivize them with commissions or even percentages off on other services." This might be a twofold win for you, because if you have services you could upsell these people on. Well, now you're saying, "Hey, look, wanted to give you 10% commission on whatever for your next service. This is a sale we're doing, and I'm wondering if you have anybody else who might be interested in that." And so perfect, you make it yourself some referrals. So one of the easiest ways to generate more revenue to your business, if you're not doing it right away, if you're not doing it. And plus you could automate these things the same ways you're doing the appointment reminder flows, the same system, just in a different sequencing. So maybe every 6 months you ask them for a referral, every year. If you've never done this, this is a cash cow basically. In terms of your Google My Business, there's optimizations you could do for Google My Business to try to make it better, to try to make it rank higher on Google Maps. But these are going to be not that effective in terms of fast, They're very effective in terms of long-term plays, but I don't believe you could do this, let's say, in a week, in terms of ranking higher in a week. One thing you can do for Google My Business, I'm gonna do a sidestep on this, is that basically what you could do is you could get all your competitors and see if they are going against Google's guidelines, and you report them. So you report them and you report the reviews that you might deem as fake. So if you report all these and you report them with a bunch of your accounts, a bunch of friends, a bunch of people at your office, like actual guideline violations that they're doing, maybe their title has keywords in them that aren't representative of their business or whatever it may be, they have content that's not as explicit or whatever it may be, you could report those. And what that's going to do is that if you're in ranked number 5 and they get suspended for a week or whatever, you're going to be ranking number 4. So if the number 2 spot goes down, you could get, in a sense, more leads by doing that. But how likely are you to get a response to these claims? Very low. The more people that report these things, the more likely you're going to get it. So keep that in mind if ever you're trying this strategy out. You could ask some old clients and new clients for reviews. So if ever your service business, I would say Google My Business is going to be the number 1 place to get reviews from. But depending on the type of business you have, you might want to get them on Trustpilot or Yelp or whatever it may be. But you want to basically ask every single person that's ever done anything with you in terms of work to leave you a review. The more reviews you have, the higher conversion rate you have on Google My Business, the higher conversion rate you then have on your website, the higher close rate you then have. Your reviews affect every single thing you do. And I would even say here, respond to reviews, respond to negative reviews. And the reason I say that is because, well, twofold. Actually, a bunch of reasons why, but these are the main two. Number 1, if you respond to reviews, there's a percentage likelihood that they get pinned. So they get, let's say they get a notification, this person respond to your review. Now they think about your business again, and now they might actually contact you again. So they're going to visit your website, they're going to contact you. Maybe they thought about something that they needed, and now they just thought about you again because you've pinned them on that. So that's number 1. Responding to reviews could do that for you. Then responding to negative reviews, you might get those negative reviews removed because maybe the person had other interactions with you, left their review 2 years ago, didn't think about it again. So they might actually change it. So you might actually get a better rating in terms of, basically you respond to reviews, it takes you 2 hours, you respond to every single one of them, and you might actually get some more clients and some better reviews from it. So those are the reasons for response for reviews. But in the case of asking for them, ask everyone you know. Everyone who's dealt with your business should leave you a review. The more reviews you have, the better it is. The better the rating you have, the better it is. Fun fact about ratings, having a 4.9 out of 5 star rating has actually a higher conversion rate in terms of Google My Business than a 5 out of 5 star. So 5 out of 5 star is actually worse for conversions. So it's a slight dip. It's like, I don't remember the exact percentage, but if you can imagine, 4.4 stars, 4.5, 4.6, 4.7, 4.8, 4.9, like 4.9 kind of peaks, and then 5 goes down. So people don't trust 5. So if you have 5, you kind of want some bad reviews. So anyways, that's going to be the idea behind how to make more revenue, how to make more money for your local service business. Now, in terms of the math, I'm just going to go over all these things here. So I'm going to actually close this, but visitors to site. Let's say this was your business. $30,000 average order value. This could change. It could be, $3,000, maybe you're a dentist, and you're getting 5,000 people on your website. It's going to be the same thing. So you could interchange the things, but in any case, you have 500 visitors on your website. Google My Business, maybe by improving the things we're talking about, you might get 50 more visitors on your website by ranking higher or getting people to notice your business and reviewing your business. So that might help you. There's search engines, you might get another 50. We're going to be moderate here. So another 50 through your title tag, meta description optimizations. In terms of your online reputation, well, we're talking about more the website. So you improve your website speed, you improve your website structure, website design, just those small modifications. I would say very strongly that you could get 10% increase in conversions. I'm going to say 20 just for this video to sound a little bit cooler. So 20, but 10 very realistically if you haven't done these things, and these are things you can apply tonight. So you can go on your WordPress site, your Wix website, you change these things, and tomorrow your conversion rate should be higher. Obviously, there's going to be statistical significance. You don't have enough people to test it out. I would say if you test these things out, test them out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on how much volume you have to your website. If you're truly trying to be as precise on these A/B tests as possible, you need 5,000 people to notice your website before you can make a change, decide on whether it was a good move or not. Most cases, I would say improving the speed of your website almost guaranteed to be a higher converting thing. and making the button pop more. You can make them more towards the design of your website. It doesn't have to be as brash as the ones I showed. Maybe you want your website to be more elegant, but in terms of conversions, those work. That's going to be that there. On the reputation, if you improve your Google My Business, we're going to keep it in that. In terms of inquiries, you will increase your show up rate by 10%. So you get 10% more people to actually show up to the appointments, which is not tremendous. For appointment reminder flows, that might do it. I would say also, forgot to mention, but for text, I believe it's 90% of people read their text, 50% of people read their emails. So if you want appointment reminders to be in effect the most, it would be text. Obviously, you could bother people by sending them 3 texts. So maybe you send them one, an hour before through text, and then the other one through email. So depending on the strategy you have. So those are going to be those here. I just want to make sure I don't have anything else. So optimizing your website sales. Okay, asking for all clients for referrals. So maybe you'd get some miscellaneous ways, past customers, you might get another, whatever, kind of 20. So if you can imagine here, you do all these things, assuming the rest of your business doesn't change, the whole process doesn't change, you would get yourself 63% more profit to your business just by improving these aspects, which in a sense are small in terms of individually, but have a large effect as a group. So I'm going to put this back to 30. So, in the case of, because I can show you maybe some case studies, in the case of Elko Roofing, a company we worked with, which we had probably the best results for, we're able to increase the amount of visitors they had to their website by 328%. So that's through SEO strategies. Some of these that I talked, obviously now this was supposed to be a fast video, so which ended up being long anyways, but supposed to be just a quick tips. For them, we did a lot more. We did like a 200-page website, but in any case, main strategies were the same we discussed. 328% boost in visitors to the site, so that's basically a 3x in terms of visitors. In terms of leads, ended up being almost a 3x in terms of leads. Actually, it's more than 3x in terms of visitors, like 4x. But leads, 3x in terms of leads. So if you can imagine, a roofing company, I'm not going to go into their details. This is just pretend numbers here. So I don't want to give their information away. But if you can imagine a roofing company having a $30,000 average roof, or you're going from, say, 17 leads, maybe you're closing, 20% of those. So you're going from, this would be like 5 clients to potentially a 3 times more. So you got 15 clients a month coming in. So you just tripled the amount of revenue you're making in your business just by improving these things. So, this was without ads, by the way. This is without advertising. This was just SEO strategies, conversion rate optimization, so on and so forth. So these are tricks you could apply for yourself. Obviously, if you want to check out the other videos we have more in depth on basically every single one of these sections. I'm going to basically through time be doing videos about all these sections. So if you want to subscribe, please subscribe. It would be very helpful for me. Would love to get some clout. So thank you very much for watching. If you guys want, I have 12 trainings. Basically, they're PDF. Well, they're longer than it's more than a PDF. It's like between a book and a PDF. So a lot of information in readable format. So if you like these videos, great. But I have basically the readable format, so you could go through everything and all the formulas, all the information. That's going to be linked in the description below. 12 free trainings. You get access for that. I believe it's just the email I'm asking for. So download that. I might send you some emails too, so you might get bothered there. But don't worry about it. Nothing weird. So that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Bye bye.